All right, here we go. So this is our house hunting and hacking group. Today is August 8th, and we meet on the second and fourth Tuesdays of every month. And we like to unlock the power of real estate together. So we love to discuss, we love to have question and answer, especially once we're done with presentations and people have all those great questions about the presentation or just random questions for the different admins and minds that we have that work in this industry. Our admins are myself, Genevieve Henderson. I'm a loan advisor. I live in Colorado, but I'm able to help people in many other states as I have a big network and national company. John Nichols is our realtor. He is unable to be here at the moment, but hopefully he'll be joining us after he gets out of traffic in about 20 minutes. He is our realtor go-to. And then we have Amber Zamudio. She is our insurance specialist. She's an independent agent, and she helps many of our clients with their insurance needs and helping shop for them. And she's actually going to be moderating today to help Stephanie with the chat box. In case any of you guys have any questions, feel free to pop those in the chat box, and Amber will be monitoring that for any pertinent questions. And if it's not pertinent, then we'll just deal with it after the presentation. So here it is. Today's topic is the details matter. How to optimize your short-term rental for increased return on investment. Our presenter is Stephanie Kraft, and again, our moderator is Amber Zamudio. So I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie. I'm going to let you, hopefully, or do you have a PowerPoint presentation for us, or are you just speaking today?
No, I do have a presentation, just a little something else to just kind of go along with kind of the topic in general as I go. Of course, the sun decides to just beam on in right as I start. So I'll change it to this. I'll share my screen. First off, too, can everybody hear me okay? Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Bear with me for a moment. Right, I think we should be good, hopefully. Okay, so, well, thank you all for having me. I'm so excited. This is a topic that really matters a lot to me, and I think that so many people can benefit from this topic in general. And, in general, I think I really want this conversation to bring about more questions and ideas, whether you have a short-term rental property already that you manage, or it's something that you're thinking about. I think what we're going to go over today is really something that you can benefit from in the long run. And, there's so many different things you can do. So hopefully this just really gets the ideas flowing, and we can just have more kind of conversation and dialogue as I go. So feel free to let me know if you have any thoughts as we go. To start off, really, how many people have used Airbnb before, or VRBO, or any of the other short-term rentals? Pretty much everyone. Okay. A lot of people, of course, obviously are usually familiar with the most well-known ones, of course, but there's also a ton of others out there in the market. A lot more, you can find more exclusive properties. There's ones that are specifically for people that are kind of traveling solo, things like that, like Homestay, Booking.com and TripAdvisor have some. What was that? Oh yeah, if anyone has any other ones that they've heard of too. But these are kind of just, the initial ones that usually come to mind when we talk about short-term rental properties. But really, just before we go into that, a little about me. My background really before I even started my own professional organizing business was I was in advertising and marketing. So I worked for a lot of local as well as national and international brands even. So branding and marketing was really my world for the longest time. And I think that really helps with kind of the way I approach what we're going to be talking about more and more. As I um, kind of segued away from advertising and marketing, I went into professional organizing. I am a Virgo, so I very much was pretty much born with kind of the detail oriented bug. I was very used to kind of, working in Excel and numbers and having to be detail oriented in that sense, planning media for a while, but then going into actual spaces, it really just felt like something that was a perfect match for my skill set that it comes very natural to me. And so professional organizing and decluttering are really the bread and butter of what I do on the day-to-day basis for the most part. That makes up a good chunk of our business, but also we work with a lot of realtors to do short-term rental property optimization, of course, as well as styling to get people ready to go on the market. But specifically, of course, with the short-term rental property optimization, which is what we're talking about, this area is really growing rapidly. And I, again, really just think that this is something that a lot of people might not think about. But if you're here, you're not only thinking about it, hopefully, but it's also something I think that can really benefit you in the long run. There are so many little things that you can do to just tweak the property, whether you're just getting started or you've been doing it for years. It really, little things can make such an impact. So today, really what I want to go over is 5 takeaways. And the main thing to start with really is first impression is everything. This is, again, kind of circles back to the fact that you are owning and managing a property. So whether you are the owner or you are overseeing it and hosting and managing the upkeep of it and hosting guests, really your first impression is the biggest way that you're going to get more people and higher occupancy on a more consistent basis. So with these 5 key takeaways that I want you to have today, really, they might seem simple at first, but there's so many little things that kind of go into it. So these 5 things really are kind of just what I want to introduce to you to really start to, again, really get your mind kind of looking at the property from a different angle and realizing that these few things, you don't necessarily, need me to come in to potentially help with just these few things that you could really assess at your current property or in the future as you set up a space to really just get you to that next level, stand out compared to the other properties that are listed. And that's really where we're going to start. So the first thing that I would highly recommend is looking at the space from the sense of how simple is it for people to come in and feel like they don't really have to think about where things are, where they go to get stuff. I guess a really good way to think about it is kind of when you go into a hotel, for instance, they have kind of your basic essentials and they're all just right there, usually ready to go. You kind of know what to expect. By simplifying a space, whether it is your personal home that you just have a spare bedroom, or it's a brand new property that you just flipped or, built out specifically to make a short-term rental, you really want to just focus on simplifying the space, declutter, make it so there's not so much to make people walk in and feel like there's too much to take in. Simplifying really is just, a matter of reducing the amount of things in the space, really being intentional with what you have there. Have your basic essential, things in the kitchen, your necessities that you need for if there's a kitchenette or in the bathroom, have it stocked with just the few minimal things that you need. And think of if you're traveling, you're a lot of times going to be where people choose to go to and stay at over somewhere else, like a hotel, like a resort, whatever that might be. So you want to be able to really kind of compete and have people think, okay, I still want them to make my life simple. And by, really just assessing what all is in the space, keeping it very neutral, that's kind of where you want to go. The second tip I have for you is to focus on the lighting. You want to make sure that you have enough lighting in every room, and just throughout the space in general. So whether it's a 1-bedroom studio, if it's at the garden level or in a basement perhaps, or if it's, situated in the mountains somewhere with thick wood cover, whatever it might be, having ample lighting, just to be able to make the space feel warm and inviting is really important. It circles back to that first impression. When somebody sees it online, they hopefully can get a good sense of the space because it's going to be well lit, hopefully in general, to see photos and get a sense of it from that point. But actually getting there in person, having some natural lighting. And if you don't have good, ample natural lighting, definitely having really good lamp setup, being cognizant of making sure the lamps, like the light bulbs, actually match. And if they, for instance, in a bathroom, if there's 2 different mismatched light bulbs, being aware of that, and you taking ownership of looking and checking for those little details, because just switching those out, making sure that everything is uniform, having kind of softer, warm lighting, as well as potential dimmers if possible, just to be able to allow your guests to adjust that however makes them comfortable. That's really something that is just another detail that's nice to consider. Number 3, I would really say this is the way to just get your property to stand out above the rest. Give it personal touches. Really, get creative, have fun. Show your personality even a little bit. If you have, if there's a management company that you work for or work with, or if you own multiple properties, give yourself a name for your properties and be able to have that there, or give each property its own identity and be able to run. Really just highlight any things that you can do for the local area that the property is located in. I would really say the personal touches can be as simple as just having a guest book where people can give feedback or nice reviews and thoughts about their stay. Having some sort of map of the local area, as well as any sort of tips or recommendations for local restaurants that you love to go to, local activities, being very thoughtful about sharing tips about parking or seasonal activities versus, I think somebody had mentioned earlier when we first got on the call, really realizing, okay, where is this property located? Where can I capitalize on the time of year and what there is to do in the surrounding area and the immediate area and town, for instance, or whether it's a city or a town, whatever it might be. Think about that. If, for instance, I think, a good example, there was a property that I was working on for a while in the mountains, and it was located in Grand Lake. And they were really close to the Rocky Mountain National Park. I know for some of you that might not live in Colorado or close to, it's, just the national park that you can go to. And it was literally at the base of one of the main entrances. But in the summertime, they were packed and always had high occupancy, but they had really down, slower times in the winter. So finding ways to say, okay, well, there's local ski resorts still within 20, 30 minutes. There's snowshoeing at the golf course that gets converted every every winter, things like that, trying to really think outside the box and find ways to bring extra benefit to your guests so that it makes it even more memorable for them during their stay. Number 4, this might seem kind of, I don't know if I want to say obvious, but just being on top of cleaning between occupancies and between visitors. Definitely make sure you have a really good cleaning schedule and regimen. Really think about what needs to be cleaned every single time, what areas might be missed occasionally. From time to time, it's very easy to think, like, forget about certain spaces, like, the corners of the closet or under the bed, different things like that. Not everybody is as detail oriented and observant at times, but really when a place sparkles, or at least just truly, again, is a space where people can come into and feel comfortable and give them that peace of mind, feel good in the space. That's really, I think, just having a really thorough cleaning crew or doing a great thorough job each time. It's not only just, something that kind of should be automatic, but also you think about creating some sort of maintenance and upkeep schedule. So I would really recommend having, the checkpoints going through with a fine tooth comb, and based on your space, really decide, okay, every between visitors, this is what has to get done at a minimum. But always, every week we check these things, every month or every quarter we look at these. So really try and be intentional about sticking with that and have some sort of maintenance schedule in place to just keep the place spotless and just really put together for everybody. Number 5, this really, I think, is where you capture the most people. And this circles back to what's going to make you stand out. How are you going to increase your occupancy? How are you going to make sure that you're able to get more people, a higher occupancy rate overall, and more people in the door and wanting to come back to your property specifically? I think pictures really is the first place where you're going to get them to even click on the property listing and be able to decide if they want to make that place one of the stays that they really truly want to stay at. Your online listing is invaluable, and that is where they first see you and really think about what they think about it initially. Having a really good hero image, that first shot that they see, the first clip that they see on the listing, really, that's going to be what people, when they decide really to go into the listing and read more about what you have to offer, if it suits their needs, so on and so forth. So really getting professional photos, if not professional photos, just getting the right angles, really doing your research to figure out how to best feature your specific rental property and highlight that with really good pictures that are well lit, that are, the space is laid out in a way that they can see and feel like when they walk into it, it's exactly what was pictured. All of that, it's really going to help overall with their reviews at the end, being able to have repeat customers, and ultimately just, again, make it memorable. And at the end of the day, that all hopefully will lead to just continuing to have more benefit in the long run. So really, there's so many more things that I could go into that I look at when I'm coming in to assess and evaluate a property, whether it's already set up and ready to receive guests, or it already has been for, like I said, an X amount of time, or if it's one you're just getting started with. There's a ton of other things that you can really look at and want to dive into. But those 5 things are really just the few takeaways that I wanted to be sure that you think about. And hopefully all of those are something you can implement so that you can just continue to reap all the benefits that can come with having it all perfect and ready for guests. So that is what I have for you today. If you have any questions at all, I would love to open it up, just to kind of keep it light.
Thank you so much for sharing, Stephanie. That was a great deal of valuable information. I'm excited. What's the coolest feature of a property that you've been in, or what really draws your attention when you're looking for an Airbnb?
I would definitely probably say just having to, when I see a property online, I personally am usually looking for the vacation mode feel. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I would describe it. Somewhere where I can go and it looks like somewhere where I'm just going to be comfortable, feel like I'm at home instantly. That's why I personally love using and staying at short-term rentals, is because it feels like a home away from home and more of a local experience. And so I like to try to really find somewhere where I not only can see that they have exceptional reviews, but also the amenities are there. Even just the basics. It doesn't always have to have every single thing, like, washers and dryers sometimes aren't included, things like that, but somewhere where it has just what I need. It's a space where it doesn't feel like I'm going to have my mind on anything, but just relaxing and doing whatever whatever I'm going for in that space. That's what I'm looking for a lot of times. And again, pictures are really probably what sell me and hook me first. Hope that answers your question. That's kind of what I like. Everyone's different, I'm sure.
Like when it comes to the photos and you want to be, sometimes all you have is that thumbnail. You want them to click on your thumbnail. And so you've only got that initial main shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Better to have that shot be of like the living area, or maybe if you have do you want maybe the exterior of the home, or do you want the view that you're offering? Like, do you want like the fun thing, like a picture of, oh, here's the hot tub with the mountains in the background, or do you want a picture of like, here's the living area with the fireplace? Like what's probably the best, safest thing that most people are gonna, I guess, cause people to want to click on that?
That's a great question. I would really say it's one of those things that could be unique to every single property. That's actually also what's really great about the work is, and also short-term rentals. Every property is so different. So I would say it's what those main features and benefits that stand out the most, highlight those and make those the thumbnail. So for sure, if there is a hot tub with a view, definitely that shot. If there's a beautiful open living space that also just has a huge window that you can just look out of, and like me, I looked out the window too. If there's a view, things like that just kind of differentiate the property from others, that's really what you want to try and make as attention grabbing as possible. And again, just like even a well laid out master bedroom, like the primary suite, if there's, a beautiful space in there that has a nice reading area, it really could just be something as simple as that. I would definitely stay on kind of the main areas of the house, the interior, the exterior, the exterior or interior, kind of looking at certain spaces like main living areas, such as the family room, for instance, or beautiful kitchen, if it's well designed, whatever that might be, things like that. So that's probably what I would say. It's hard to say, but I would just say whatever the differentiating point is, probably try and pick that out and make that the thumbnail and get a great shot of it.
Thank you.
Jamal, Carol, do you guys have any questions that we can help with?
No, she answered a lot of my questions. She actually gave a lot of gems out about the pictures, so I appreciate that.
Awesome.
I'm glad.
Stephanie, you mentioned that you like to look at properties that have good reviews. How does somebody who's like new at short-term rental get reviews at all, or get people to book with them so that they can get reviews?
That is a great question as well. I would really recommend having some sort of, I guess the communication piece really is the simplest way to say it. So this goes back to kind of what we would do when we come in and do a full assessment. It would include a full review of the online listing as well as the in-person and guest experience. And so really, I would say in your communications that you have set up for guests as the host, put some sort of verbiage in there where you're trying to create that relationship and keep it, you always want to be professional. At the end of the day, you are providing the space for the guest. But when you're starting out, I don't think there's anything wrong with, saying, if you had a wonderful stay, like when they're leaving, checkout process is here. And, if you had a wonderful stay, we hope that you'll leave us a review. We really enjoyed having you. I think really just giving that human element. I don't think there's anything wrong with kind of including some line like that you can just ask for that. And also leave a little note, like that's part of a personal touch that you can do in the property. If you have, a welcome sign when you first come in that has the Wi-Fi information or whatever it might be, include something on there. Like, please, make sure to tell your friends and family about us if you enjoyed your stay, or be sure to leave a review and let us know if you have any feedback, while you were here. We would love to hear it. Things like that. I think that's where, when you're starting out, it'll just help entice people to remember and also just do it in general.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So I met Stephanie at a tabletop networking, and she's been a rock star. She's been working with one of the people that I know that's doing a listing, and it's been kind of a complicated situation. So it's been great to have her expertise.
Thank you, John. It's been a really fun project.
So I liked what you said about you called it the hero image. And I've heard that before. I actually went to an Airbnb group before we ever did Airbnb, and they talked about those first 3 images on the site are super important, similar to a real estate listing. They kind of make or break or keep people, from scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say anything more? I think you kind of addressed it, but if you had to have like I said, I think you pretty much addressed it, but if you had to say there's one feature that you thought would be the most important hook for that hero image, what would it be?
I know, I feel like this was similar to kind of what I was saying with Genevieve's question earlier. And yes, that original, that thumbnail, as Genevieve said, what I would refer to as like a hero image. It's the one part of the property that is going to get people to be excited about it. A lot of times, I think what we see the most often are main living areas, like open floor plan kitchens, that kind of thing. Definitely, probably even, it's hard. It's really, again, just so different for every property. I think of a zillion. That's why it's hard for me to give an exact answer, because every home, every room, it could be different. And again, with a studio, for instance, it might be a shot of the whole space, honestly. So it's so challenging to say, but I guess if there's a view, capture that, because that's usually the only way you're going to see that from that one property. but if there's, you know, an appealing feature that just feels different, then I would go with that. I know it's hard for me to not, I can't
No,
nail
I
it.
like,
Really.
I liked what you had to say earlier in response to Jen's question about wanting to feel like you're gonna go on vacation or having that vacation feel. Our challenge with our condos in Florida is they're kind of a hybrid, like we're appealing to people to stay longer and they want to work and play. And so it's more than just the pure vacation. But at the same time, I think that that hook to get them excited about staying there and knowing about the playtime makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah, and definitely, you know, include of course, like if you have a space where they can have good Wi-Fi and a space to work, but also have all of the different fun little amenities. Like if it's in Florida, for instance, and they're within a few minutes of a beach, have some lawn chairs, have, you know, maybe an umbrella or, you know, a few extra beach towels, you know, that are just included. I actually just got back from a stay at an Airbnb in Hawaii not that long ago, and I really loved that they had that available. We were just a few minutes away from an amazing beach. They provided snorkeling gear, some beach chairs, towels, and a cooler. And it was just a small little backpack cooler, but having something like that, it was so great because we didn't have to go to the local market just down the way and get something like that to, you know, just take snacks or drinks to the beach. And it was all just there for us to be able to use while we were there. And that's, again, one of those personal touches that stood out to me and would stand out, I think, to other guests too. Those are the things that make short-term rental properties the reason why I think a lot of people choose to stay there over more traditional stays, like, you know, your typical hotel or, you know, other places.
Yeah, I like
That's
that.
Yeah, that's a great example. It's something as I wouldn't have even thought of that, but yeah, if you're flying, most people are flying to Hawaii, they're not gonna have a cooler chest, but if they want to go and spend their day at the beach, that's gonna, you know, be a really essential piece to enjoying your day out there. And so, and the towels too, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, snorkel gear, if you're there for even a week, buying snorkel gear, it could be, you know, for a family, even 2 sets could be $50-$60 for just a very small set from a grocery store. But if you have a new set that you provide and you work that into your operating expenses of the property, if that's something that you can, you know, provide them and save them that hassle or that expense, it's just one more thing that it just makes life easier and kind of is something else that you can just say, you know, that's there for you to enjoy. And if they take it, you have some sort of verbiage that says, you know, it would just be this much, you know, per se, if you need to do that. Or they just leave it and then you can figure out, you know, can it be disinfected and saved for somebody else? Like obviously it's snorkel gear, so that might be a bad example, but you know, something like that. It just really, it's those little things that people might not think of until they're there, and then they realize how nice it is that you thought of it and they didn't.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of the robe concept. You know, that sometimes hotels provide that, you know, maybe short-term rentals should be offering that too. You know, it kind of gives you the best of both worlds, makes you feel like you're in the luxurious hotel, but yet you're in a more homey, cozy situation.
Right. Yeah, totally. And I mean, if every property is so, that's what I think so many owners can really take so much advantage of their property and do things with it. And, you know, if there's gardens in the backyard, or if there's, you know, I don't know, just really a big, beautiful, mature tree to be able to set up like a sitting area and make that a feature place, you know, for people to get excited about. You know, you never know what's going to get people, but whether they see it in the, pictures in the listing initially or not, when they show up and really putting your best, your best foot forward and showing them what you have to offer, I think that just leads to such an increase in not only the people that are coming and staying, but they're happy, they leave the reviews. Like I tell you, when you have that kind of a great system in place and it becomes that well-oiled machine where, it's just kind of like, okay, what can we just continue to add and do that much better? I think that you're just going to continue to soar when it comes to, reaping the rewards of that.
We had a new guest join us, Franklin. Hi, Franklin. Do you have any questions? Stephanie Kraft is our expert and presenter tonight. And we're just, throwing everything we have at her with her experience. So feel free to ask any questions. Or Anita or Jamal, if you think of one, just chime in.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I came in at the tail.
Sorry, it cut you out.
Hope we didn't lose him.
I think he was unmuted and then mute when he talked.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'd definitely like to hear from you, Franklin, and welcome. Like to know where you come from and.
Yeah, I'm in Westminster, like the Metro Denver area. And I currently have a house hack where I live, kind of rent out the rooms. And yeah, just
Got a bad connection. We're losing you, Franklin. Darn it.
Oh man.
to learn about the STR spaces and rates. That's really the only way to make. Sorry.
Sorry, Franklin, your connection was cutting out there. Would you mind repeating what you were just saying?
And I think he's muted again.
Franklin, could we try putting the question in the chat?
Good idea.
Yeah, I can try that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
While he's doing that, I'm going to ask a quick question on lighting that you mentioned.
Yes.
There's so many different types of lighting. There's like soft white and warm white, and then there's like this light that's almost like, oh my gosh, like blue. I don't even know. Is there, obviously you want to be consistent. That would be number one. But number two, when it comes to like the photos or just the in-person overall experience, is there one type of lighting that you should probably change everything else out to if you can?
So it could be more personal preference, but I usually recommend to my clients that you want to find I like the soft, warm light bulbs. And they're specifically the warm, not the cold. And that's going to give you more of that kind of the more almost yellow, like sunny hues, if you will, of course, compared to the more blue and bright white that you'll get more so from the cold. So I usually recommend like the soft white, warm specific bulbs. Wattage wise, I don't have that off the top of my head, but having either the dimmable or the 3 different level light bulbs are also nice. Then you can kind of just change that. But those are what I usually go for. The ones that I usually steer clear from are the super bright ones that you're talking about that almost are a little blinding, or the way I describe them usually, you can usually tell, it almost feels like kind of a sterile environment. Like hospital-like, you know what I mean?
Fluorescent.
Yeah, fluorescent lighting just really, it kills you. So I don't know. I think something that's a little bit kind of warms up the space. That's what I would recommend.
Stephanie, you mentioned cleaning. I have heard a lot on social media stuff and whatnot about how people are very upset at the cleaning fees that people charge. Like, what's your input on that?
Oh, that one's tricky because I guess it really is just a matter of, I guess, what you have in place also with your cleaning service and how much that costs and goes into it. Honestly too, I think since I don't have an actual short-term rental myself, it's just something that I really haven't taken into account. And the fee is, I think, super subjective too. So that's a hard one, I would say, for me to answer, just in the sense that I think it's so variable. You want to make sure that you're covering, what your expenses are, but I think it's just, yeah, I can't say there's probably a range.
Yeah, and I can chime in a little bit. We do all the cleaning ourselves for the most part here at our house, where we're house hacking like Franklin is. And then our Florida condos, we went through a couple different services, but we lucked out with the neighbor of one of our 3 units is cleaner. And, one thing we look at, if it's a short-term rental, that means it's an investment. And like Stephanie said, it needs to be very, very clean. And it is a write-off. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I mean, those are all expenses that you can use to, offset the taxes that you have to pay on the income. And finding a good finding a good cleaner is just, they're worth their weight in gold. And this particular person, just having her as a neighbor, and times when the cable company comes over and asks for help, we try to pay her a little bit extra, but it is expensive, but it's a necessity. And depending, like Franklin, like how much you're turning over, I don't know if you have rooms for rent that you're furnishing or unfurnishing and how long you're doing it, but it does make it easier and less expensive, obviously, if you're turning it over once every couple of months. But we, on average, I mean, every unit, every time we turn it over, so anywhere from 30 to 60 days, we're paying around 150 per time. So it's more advantageous to do the cleaning that way, where you're doing the furnished 30-day rentals as opposed to the day-to-day stuff. If you're doing the day-to-day stuff, hopefully it's at your house. Hopefully you can do some of the cleaning yourself, because that could really add up.
Yeah, I know a lot of properties, I've started to see more and more too, do the minimum stay, the minimum nights that you can stay. So sometimes, 3 to 4 nights is kind of what they have as, the minimum for you to book. And so that maybe is also something that you could consider implementing, if it's helpful to also just have kind of the timeframes blocked off, and make it, trying to just be more purposeful with having a cleaning crew come in once or twice a week, or, however long, if you don't have people that are staying for that long.
Mhm.
Franklin, are you thinking of taking one of your rooms in your house and making it into like an Airbnb room?
No, I'm not. I'm thinking of keeping it as a rent by the room to long-term people. So I furnish just the common areas and have an empty, unfurnished room.
Okay.
And Franklin asked, is there a big demand for short-term rentals in Longmont? What type of guest visit versus Metro Denver areas like Arvada, Adams County, and et cetera? He's thinking of places to move in Colorado for his next house hack.
Well, Franklin, I am from Longmont, and we've been doing Airbnb out of our downstairs bedroom since 2017. And quite frankly, when we started it, my son living in New York was talking about Airbnb, and I'd never heard of it. And I just assumed it was just a destination kind of thing. But we've been pleasantly surprised as we rent out both of our rooms that there's been a lot of demand. And it's usually, we do the minimum stay. We save money by doing a lot of the cleaning ourselves. And we've been pleasantly surprised, especially if you put your price point,
Mhm.
appropriately, you can get a lot of volume. We've had our mortgage paid on our home many months. Some months are more so than others. And then Airbnb now has this algorithm. So whenever's going on in Longmont is a high demand type thing, then we just notice automatically that price per night goes up. So Longmont has a lot of tech, a lot of business, a lot of travelers. We see quite a bit people coming to like a massage therapy conference or a Tai Chi conference, and they really like the idea of, they don't mind sharing a bathroom and having their own private room and having a kind of a common space. And you do have to live in the unit in Longmont and then rent
Oh,
out your
cool.
rooms. It makes it a lot easier to get the license.
Yeah, Longmont's also very centrally located to a lot of different
Oh,
things too.
gotcha. There's the license. Okay. I like it.
One of the things that we found that really helps is like tying the name of your Airbnb
Yeah,
to,
it's like right in between, Boulder, Rocky Mountain, Denver.
yeah, we're in Longmont, and one we call cute bedroom minutes from Boulder, and one we call king bedroom minutes from Boulder. And then in Florida, even though we're in Seminole, we're really close to Clearwater and St. Pete. So we always have, we have the word Clearwater or St. Pete in there because you want it. That's another thing I learned at an Airbnb class. You want to have that hook. You want to have that anchor that people think of. And so I think the name for us, Minutes from Boulder, really gets people thinking about, oh, I don't have to pay Boulder prices, but I can be really close. And then when they get here, they realize it's super easy to get to Boulder or Rocky Mountain National Park. So they spend a
Yeah.
lot less money on, spend a lot less money on their lodging and more money on what they want to do.
Nice. Awesome. That's great.
And Franklin, you missed our intros, but John is a realtor and can certainly help you if you're looking at starting to look at places and stuff. Great resource.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, there's I missed the first half. I think there's a recording.
Yep, Jen's got it recording and she'll set it up on our YouTube.
Yeah, definitely YouTube, and also on our Facebook group, we'll post it there. So you can definitely catch what Stephanie had filled us in on the 5 key things to think about when it comes to short-term rentals that you might want to replay that. But yeah, John is great in that he does everything. He does the Airbnb, he does the short-term rentals, he does the long-term leases, and then he also knows how to market all of those things and how to find those properties. So a great resource. Highly recommend that you connect with him.
And he's got great connections like Stephanie that we could get you going with too.
Well, I think what Stephanie's talking about now is just so important for people to hear, because the reality is the market is starting to get a little saturated. You have a lot of people that, especially during the pandemic, they had extra money, tons of equity in their home. It was cheap to borrow. So they go buy these properties and they justify it with, the projections of what Airbnb income they were going to get. And in some cases, those people who were doing like day-to-day Airbnbs are now kind of into the midterm 30-day Airbnbs, but there's just a lot out there. So it's all about getting that competitive edge. And I think what Stephanie's talking about as far as the lighting and keeping it clean in your photos is just something that people need to know.
Absolutely. I have a home in Colorado Springs that I have had rented for 13 years. It's been rented for 15 years, but I've had the same tenants for 13 years. And on Friday last week, our tenant said they're moving. So I immediately went into panic mode and I thought, you know what, maybe I should short-term rent this bad boy. So this has been a great wealth of information, Stephanie. I'm really excited with your presentation and to even just get an idea of how the process works, because when you're just thinking about those things, there's so much to it that it can be very overwhelming. To have just these 5 key takeaways is super helpful. So thank you so much for presenting tonight.
Good. You're so welcome. I'm glad too. Yeah, it's just something to get you started. And I think these are some of the biggest ways that you can just really, if you can get it dialed in pretty well from the get-go, it'll just set you up for success in the long run. And then you can just keep dialing it in and fine-tuning as you go.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So Amber, is what you have, is it a condo or is it a house?
Single family home.
Okay.
That in the heart of Colorado Springs, really. So we'll see. I'm going to be spending all of September and October in there remodeling and renovating, whether or not it's a short-term rental or it turns into a long-term rental again, just because those folks have been there for 13 years and, you know, it had carpet. So, you know, it's got to go. And I'm sure of it already.
Oh,
Yeah, I'd be curious as you're digging in. I'm curious, you know, what's going on with Colorado Springs and what they allow and disallow. You know, every municipality is a little bit different. I've been steering a lot of people to Arvada because they seem to have pretty favorable Airbnb rules.
Well, I'll let you know. And I'm starting a TikTok channel, so I'll share it with you. I'm gonna TikTok my journey. We'll see how it goes. Me and my husband will I'm sure be fighting. So
Love it.
Definitely use Facebook Marketplace. It's a great way to advertise for renters. I've had a lot of success with it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Anything really I can do for free.
Yeah.
Girl on a budget.
well, I'm gonna close us out here that our next meeting is actually with Amber in 2 weeks, on the 22nd at 7 p.m. She's going to be talking about mastering home ownership, tips and tricks for long-term property maintenance, really protecting that thing that you just spent a heck of a lot of money on, and you know, making sure you get that appreciation. So you can RSVP on Meetup. I've already got it posted on there, and you can add it to your calendar. There is a new Zoom link for every week, so you can't use the same Zoom link for each meeting. So please be sure and RSVP so you can get the new Zoom link. You can also follow us and chat with us on our Facebook group that we have, which you can find right there, where we answer questions when it's not the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. And we love engagement on there. And then again, you can also watch our recordings or see our previous meetings that we've already had on our YouTube channel at House Hunting Hacking. You can find those there. And of course, feel free to reach out to us individually, as you can find us on Meetup or on our Facebook group. You can reach out to us if you have any questions about our particular industries that we work in or our experiences that we have. But otherwise, that's it for tonight. So thank you guys so much for attending. And look for the recording that'll be out there if you want to get caught up on the whole meeting if you missed part of it. Good to see you guys.
Love it. Thank you for having me. This was great.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. You did a wonderful job. We look forward to having you again because we know there's a plethora of other topics that you can help us with.
I love it. Yeah, I look forward to it. I'm excited to see you next time, Amber.
Yes, me too. I'll fill you in on how it's going. This is my nervous laugh because I am terrified.
I love it. Well, thank you all.
Thank you. Have a great night.